They took me on their plane to go and see firsthand, and I saw hundreds and hundreds of bodies on the ground. Just they took this skin. And frankly, I don't like to see blood. I mean, it was not a happy scene. But also at the same time, it hit home the fact that I, like the majority of Canadians, was lied to by my government. And my government continued to lie to me. And as of 8 weeks ago, the government continued to send out communication to Canadians who inquired about the seal hunt, telling them that sealers' revenues represent 35% of their income. And as Cheryl have said, if that is true, that is very pathetic for a developed country like Canada to still have people that earn $3,000 a year. That's not the Canada that we know. That's not even a third in least developed countries. And if so, I think the government have a responsibility to step up to its responsibilities and to support these individuals so they can have a better opportunity. And so what do? They think the more aggressively, so they had a debate, they had a public debate in the House of Commons. And they attacked me one after the other, and they thought that's the cause célèbre to put down one of their colleagues. That makes sense. And one of the government members who was with me at that European Union meeting said that Mr. Hart was with us on that delegation with the European Union members when those issues were debated. That's the seal issue. He sat silently, which is absolutely true, amazingly silently. And he said nothing throughout the whole discussions. But what he didn't know that was not true, that the fact I did submit at that very same meeting a proposal dealing with world trade, with international trade, and the fact that I wanted the discussion on international trade to move from the World Trade Organization to the OECD, because I felt at the time, and I continue to feel, that WTO is losing its credibility as an organization because it's too cumbersome, and when you take a cause to it, it doesn't function properly, because the way it works is that you have 100 and some odd countries, 150 countries or so, and every decision has to be unanimous. We cannot agree on a lot of things in this room. We may agree on one, but I'm sure if we were to pick any other cause, we'd have dissent, so therefore we can't work. And so I felt that should be moved to the OECD, and I made a proposal which was accepted, actually, by everybody who was there, including the Secretariat for the OECD. And as a result of that, I was invited to Paris a couple of days after the conference to go and represent the Parliament of Canada at that particular meeting. So Mr. Tilson was wrong. I didn't sit silently there. I spoke on the thing that should make us proud, not on the thing that makes us feel ashamed of ourselves as representative of Canada in the Parliament of Canada at those conferences. So now the government wanted to go to the WTO. And the government wanted to use the argument of fair trade. But you know what the government doesn't know, that under trade rules, each country has the right to enact certain measures when it deals with issues of culture or with issues with its own people, with values. We do that. We did that with the NAFTA agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement. We negotiated that with Canada and Mexico. In fact, that's one issue Canada insisted on making sure that would not be touched by trade, and that we can put measures of protectionism. We do that. We have a right to do that. Under the WTO, countries have those very same rights. And tell me something, government. If you really wanted to go now and challenge the European Union because they have put in a ban on commercial seal hunt, seal product, why is it you sat silently when the United States back in the 70s, or 1972, when they introduced a law that is similar in nature, maybe even more stringent to the EU, you sat and you said, not a beat, not a word. We went through all of the record of that era, and there was zero discussion in government, zero discussion in Parliament, and zero discussion in the Senate about the commercial seal hunt, seal product ban of that in the United States of America. Number one trading partners. We do over $500 billion a year in trading with the United States. We did not say a word. And then comes Mexico. And then come Italy. And then come Belgium. And then come other countries around the world who also have introduced bans. Now, suddenly, we are angry because our number two trading partners decided to do what our number one trading partner have done and what other countries have been doing. Suddenly we woke up to the fact, whoops, maybe what we should do is go to the WTO and tell them that these people cannot do what these other people are doing. Isn't it? This is terribly unfair. I mean, if you are a lawyer trying to argue a case before a judge, wouldn't you think the judge will throw your case out immediately because you have zero credibility? When the witness who's appearing before a judge loses credibility, the case is lost. When the government of Canada wanted to go as a witness on behalf of the sealer or as a representative on behalf of the sealers to present its case on the international scene, it's going to lose its credibility. Because the European Union, if they were just to ask a question to Canada now, probably they would be doing themselves a huge favor and saving a lot of money. And that, do you have intentions to take the United States to the WTO? I asked that question in the Senate. I haven't received an answer yet. Perhaps I will at some point in time. They may decide to bring these batteries of lawyers in order to go and launch their case at the WTO. But I tell you one thing, I don't think the government want to do that. The reason why they don't want to do that because of three things. First, it costs a lot of money to do that. I'm talking millions. It'll take forever. And second, they will not win the case, even if they win the decisions of the WTO. You got to remember how the system works. You go before this group of individuals and experts, and even if they rule in favor of Canada, Europe have a number of things they can do, one of which they will say, well, yeah, that's what they said, but nonetheless, our people are telling us otherwise, so we're sticking with our decisions. Okay? Canada, the only thing they can do is pick a product from the European Union and then go and put a tax on it, tax the product. I want to give you an example of what happened a few years ago. And I was sort of on the peripheries of it when Spain and Canada, we had an issue with gherkins, that small little cucumbers, look like pickles, small little thing. And I guess there was some problem. We took the European Union to the WTO because Spain is part of the EU. And guess what happened? We won. Great. And so what did the panel tell Canada? You go ahead. Now you won over them, and they don't want to sort the situation out. They're stubborn. You pick a product and you go and then put a big tax on it. What did our bureaucrat decide to do? Pick a product that we have a lot of coming to Canada and put the tax on it. They picked pasta. And within about a week, we were flooded with thousands and thousands of emails and letters from all over and phone calls from people saying, what the hell are you doing? This is my brand. This is what I eat. You got it was something like 300%. I don't know, I don't remember the exact figures, but a huge amount of tax on it. And guess what did we do? We caved in. We backed away from the action. So you take the worst possible scenarios that we win, but in the end, really, we lose. And then the third point, which is the international scene. What happened? You may win, technically, before the WTO after you spend all this money, but you lost the public opinion poll. You lost on the international scene. When you have Europe representing over 350 million people, the United States and Mexico representing closer to 400 million people, and other countries around the world, in Latin America and elsewhere, who I suspect many of them will eventually also introduce similar ban on sealed product. When you have all of these people telling you, no, I am offended, stop it. When you have your customers, the one who are buying your product, telling you, please, take this off your shelf, and I don't want it on my shelves. Don't you think you should stop? That's what a good business person will do. Makes good economic sense to listen to your customers. And we got thousands of emails from around the world that tell us the same thing. And these are not people, I tell you,